The purpose of this short video is to introduce you to demographics in the village of Earls, Colne. This is a project and assignment that you'll be working on for the next few days in class, and in order to make sure you have the best possible start, let's go over some basics of looking at demographics and genealogies in early modern Europe. You're going to receive a variety of documentation, and the first set that you're really going to look at are the baptismal register. First page looks like this. The burial register looks like this, and the marriage register. So what you're going to get is basically a list of names accompanied by dates. You're going to use this documentation to begin creating family trees or genealogies for the families of Earls Colne. You're going to notice really quickly that you're only looking really at the late 16th century, mostly the 17th century, and a teeny bit into the beginning of the 18th century. So I've definitely excerpted a certain time period for us to look at. So how does one create a family tree? I'm guessing most of you have probably done some sort of family tree assignment in your past, but let's go ahead and review some of the major elements that I would like you to include in your family trees for Earls Colne. Well, first of all, you're going to probably start with looking at marriages. And just as an example, I've given you here my parents and their marriages. So for each man that you come across, you're going to denote he's male by using a circle. You're going to list his full name, if you have it. In this case, my dad's name is Jesus Espinosa Aguayo. You're going to list their birth date, the entire date that you have, so the month, the day, and the year. And you're also going to note how old they are, right? I did the same with my mother here, but for a female, you denote this with a triangle, so on and so forth. Marriage is denoted with the equal sign, and then I would like you to list the year or date, if you have it, of the marriage as well. Now after that, what you'll do is you'll begin looking for children of this marriage, so issue, right? In this case, I've listed myself and my sister, so again, you can see the pattern where females are denoted with the triangle, our first and middle names are listed here along with birth dates and approximate ages. Now, as you all know, I'm married. So what you would do is then list the marriage here. My husband suddenly appears here in our genealogical table. And because my husband has a daughter, she appears as well, right here. So some general things to remember as you begin working on your family trees. Remember to note down the complete names as available for everyone. Remember to note down complete dates as available, both in terms of birth dates, marriage dates, and then if you happen to find them, death dates. And then remember to calculate lifespans in decimals. So as you can see there, someone who lived a year and 2 months lived for approximately 1.17 years. This is going to be an important sticking point when we start looking at statistics. So really to begin, you're going to start with the marriage register and begin at the very beginning. No other reason to start somewhere else. So John Parker married Anne Reed on the 20th of May of 1583. So create the beginnings of a chart for this marriage. John Parker married Anne Reed, 20th of May, 1583. Next, you'll go to the baptismal register and you'll begin looking for the children of this marriage, right? The issue of the marriage. So skim down, skim down, skim down. Oh, there's a kid. There's Robert. Skim down, skim down, skim down. Oh, there's another kid. There's Thomas, and so on and so forth. Now you'll be able to tell based on the years when the kids of the marriage have all been accounted for. But remember, you're going to note down their names, their dates, etc. Now remember to keep double checking. So you start with John Parker and Anne Reed, you've got their marriage date, you start listing their children. My suggestion is going to be that you stagger the length of the lines, and this will allow you to put all the information about that person right underneath their name. Now finally, you're going to go through the burial register. And in the burial register, you'll probably not only find some of the children, unfortunately, of the family trees, but you'll also find some of the husbands and wives listed as well. So you look down the burial register, and you're going to see that Rose, the daughter of John Parker, was buried on the 22nd of May of 1611. So make sure on your chart that you note that down. And since we have both a birth and a death date for Rose, you can go ahead and calculate how long she lived. Now, these are registers and they are imperfect. So you're going to have to use your common sense to try to complete these family trees. Now, first of all, remember that spelling is not standardized yet during this time period. So if it seems like it might be the same last name, it probably is, and treat it as such. And hey, guess what? People had nicknames during this time period as well. So if it seems like the registers might be talking about the same person, for example, same last name, but sometimes she's referred to as Susan and sometimes as Susanna, go ahead and treat it as the same person because, again, it probably is. And finally, if there's ever a reference to a base or a natural child, what this means is that the child was considered illegitimate. You will find instances where you've got a base or natural child and then the parents marry after. So you'll have an earlier birth date for the child than you will for the marriage. Now here are some practicalities regarding this assignment. I'd like you to work in groups of 3 or 4. Now keep in mind that if you really want to work alone, that's fine, but you're still going to be responsible for all of the assignment, which means family trees for each of the marriages and then the calculations of the statistics. Feel free to use the newsprint that's in the room. Remember, it's in the podium cubby. Or you can use notebook paper for the family trees if you'd like. If you do use the newsprint, I'm going to suggest that you fold it in half, and that gives you 4 different spaces on one sheet for family trees. You are going to use up the space, so don't crowd the family trees. Initially, it's going to seem really, really weird to just put the marriage on one side and then flip it over and you've got all of this dead space, but please go ahead and do that. Some of these families have lots of kids. Please also know that I would like you to do these family trees by hand, so no computer work for this. It's also a good idea to note down the ages as you work. All right, so as you find somebody's death date and you have their birth date, go ahead and figure out their year at that time. It's going to be a lot easier later when you've got to combine all the statistics. Finally, have fun. This is an assignment I've been doing for quite a few years, and it's an excerpted version of something that I did when I was in college, and I had a wonderfully fun time doing this. So as you work, comment on it. Talk about how these families seem to be made up. Feel free to make our value judgments on them, right? We've got a 21st century sensibility, but we'll find that some things are amazingly similar across space and time. And we'll be talking about these once everyone is done with their family trees and looking at their statistics, and we'll be able to look at some generalizations about early modern families and specifically everyday people in the early modern period.